an island rich in resources, strategically placed between the United States, Europe, and Russia. Now imagine the leader of the United States publicly saying, "We need Greenland. One way or another, we're going to get it." This is not a thought experiment. This is reality. In 2026, the White House openly discussed acquiring Greenland, and military action was not ruled out. The press secretary stated clearly that utilizing the US military is always an option. Why would a modern superpower contemplate such a move? National security, global influence, control over natural resources. You might be asking, what does this mean for NATO, for Denmark, for the balance of power in the Arctic? Stay with me, because in the next moments, we'll unravel the full story behind this audacious claim. Let's step back and understand the problem at its core. The question is simple. Why would the United States consider acquiring Greenland in 2026? It is not about tourism or cultural exchange. It is about strategy, it is about power, and it is about resources. Greenland sits at the heart of the Arctic, a region growing ever more important in global geopolitics. The ice may be melting, but the stakes are rising. President Trump called Greenland a national security priority. He believes controlling the island would deter adversaries. Russia and China are watching the Arctic closely, and the US does not want to be left behind. This is why military options are openly considered. This is why Denmark's sovereignty is being questioned. And this is where the tension begins, between diplomacy and force, between allies and ambitions. To understand why Greenland matters so much, we must look at its history and origins. Greenland has a long history. It is not just an island. It is a strategic gateway. For centuries, it has been under Danish rule. Its people are small in number, but the land is immense. During the Cold War, Greenland's location became critical. The United States established bases there. It was a front line in the struggle against the Soviet Union. The Arctic is changing. Melting ice opens new shipping routes. It reveals natural resources long hidden beneath the ice: oil, gas, rare earth minerals. Every major power has taken notice. The United States, Russia, and China each sees Greenland not just as land, but as leverage. President Trump revived his first-term ambition to buy Greenland. It was rejected before, but the message remained clear. Greenland is too important to ignore. And when ambitions meet opportunity, crisis often follows. The first crisis came suddenly. The White House announced it was discussing a range of options to acquire Greenland. It was not a hint. It was not a negotiation. Military action was openly mentioned. The world reacted immediately. Denmark, a trusted NATO ally, was stunned. European leaders spoke in unison. They said Greenland belongs to its people, and Arctic security must be collective. Trump doubled down. He questioned Denmark's right to the territory. He declared nobody would fight the US militarily over Greenland. Critics were alarmed. Democrats warned of an invasion. Even some Republicans called it stupid and demeaning to allies. The tension was real. The stakes were clear. A superpower, an ally, and a resource-rich island were now at the center of a geopolitical storm. And yet, the White House pushed forward. To understand why this tension escalated, we must examine the hidden mechanisms behind it. Beneath the headlines, a hidden mechanism drives this ambition. It is not just desire. It is power calculation. Greenland is a strategic pivot. Control over it allows influence in the Arctic. It enables monitoring of Russia. It opens access to untapped natural resources. The US military presence already exists. Bases in Greenland provide early warning, missile tracking, and strategic leverage. But beyond military strategy, economics plays a role. Oil, gas, and rare earth minerals are increasingly scarce. Owning Greenland means controlling a critical supply chain. Political theater also fuels the mechanism. Statements about acquisition send signals to allies and adversaries alike. It tests Denmark's resolve. It pressures NATO to align with US priorities. And at the top, leadership style matters. Bold, direct, and often unorthodox decisions accelerate the cycle. This is why the situation feels urgent. Every statement, every meeting, every public comment is part of a larger strategic calculus. And when strategy meets ambition, a second crisis is inevitable. The second crisis erupted with clarity. Trump renewed his push for Greenland. He made public statements aboard Air Force One. He said, "We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security." Denmark responded. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned that a US military attack could end NATO. She said Trump's desires should be taken seriously. European leaders echoed the concern. France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, and Britain reaffirmed that Greenland belongs to its people. They called for Arctic security to be collective. Inside the United States, reactions were fierce. Senator Ruben Gallego introduced a resolution to prevent invasion. He warned, "We must stop him before he invades another country on a whim." Republican voices also criticized the approach. Representative Don Bacon called the idea stupid. He emphasized the importance of respecting a NATO ally. The rhetoric intensified. The media amplified it. Public perception of US diplomacy shifted. And the Arctic, once quiet and frozen, became a stage of tension. But beyond politics and strategy, we must ask, how does this affect the people? Imagine living on an island suddenly thrust into global spotlight. Imagine your home being called a strategic prize. This is the reality for the people of Greenland. Daily life continues. Families, schools, local communities. Yet the world is debating whether their land could be bought or seized. Fear and uncertainty grow. Would military forces arrive? Would allies betray them? Would their voices even matter? The local population watches global powers argue over resources. They feel small against superpowers. Their culture, their sovereignty, their identity suddenly under scrutiny. And you as a viewer might ask, what would you do if your home was on the line? This is more than politics. It is human lives. It is real people facing the consequences of decisions made far away. If you care about justice and fairness, this is a moment to reflect, because what happens in Greenland matters not just geopolitically, but morally. Next, we see how this tension radiates beyond Greenland, shaping global dynamics. The ripple effects are immediate. Greenland is not just an island. It is a fulcrum of global power. Allies watch carefully. NATO is tested. Trust between nations is questioned. Russia observes silently. China sees opportunity. Every move signals intent, strength, and ambition. Trade routes may shift. Access to minerals and oil becomes a point of contention. The Arctic, once distant and frozen, is now a theater of strategic rivalry. European nations react. Statements of unity and warning are issued, yet they know the balance of power is delicate. The United States, by openly considering military options, sends shockwaves worldwide. Diplomacy, once subtle, is now overt. Every nation recalculates its strategy. This is not Greenland alone. This is a test of international norms, of alliances, of the rules that govern global security. Looking forward, 3 possible futures emerge, each carrying its own consequences. The future of Greenland hangs in the balance. 3 paths lie ahead. The first is the optimistic path. Diplomacy prevails. The United States respects Denmark's sovereignty. Allies cooperate. Greenland benefits from investment, infrastructure, and security without conflict. The Arctic becomes a model of collective governance. The second is the moderate path. Tensions escalate but are contained. Military posturing occurs. Allies negotiate limits. Resource extraction begins under strict international agreements. The world witnesses uneasy stability with mistrust simmering beneath the surface. The third is the dire path. National ambitions clash. Military threats are realized. NATO fractures. Greenland becomes a contested zone. Global markets and supply chains are disrupted. The Arctic transforms into a high-stakes geopolitical arena with unpredictable consequences. Each scenario reflects a system in motion. Decisions ripple far beyond the island, and the choices made now will define the rules of engagement in the Arctic for decades. The lesson is clear. Power, strategy, and morality are inseparable. Finally, we must ask, what insight emerges from this story, and what should we do next? The story of Greenland is more than geography. It is about power, it is about ambition, it is about the choices of nations and their leaders. We have seen the stakes, the human impact, the geopolitical consequences, and the uncertain future that lies ahead. One insight stands out. In a world of superpowers, small lands can hold immense influence. Resources, location, and strategy converge to create tension. And when ambition overrides diplomacy, the cost is felt by all. You, as a global citizen, must pay attention. Understand the forces shaping the world. Question the decisions made in distant capitals. And demand accountability when human lives and international norms are at risk. Because the story does not end here. Greenland is a mirror of a larger truth. That in the struggle for power, vigilance, and awareness are our strongest tools. If this story sparked your curiosity, share it, discuss it, and subscribe to follow the next chapter of global affairs unfolding before our eyes.